The Guests by Hussein Rahmi Gurpinar. Read by Rachel Bavage. When guests come to stay in your house, it makes a lot of work. There are meals to cook, food to buy, washing to do, beds to make. It all takes time and money. Izzet Effendi and his family are very happy to have guests to stay. When your friends need help, you must help them. But these friends stay and stay and stay. "19 days and 19 nights. That was a long time, a very long time, in a small house. There were 4 people, husband, wife, and 2 children, 4 guests. And they ate. Every day they ate bread, so that was 2 okas more bread every day. Bread, meat, vegetables, they all cost money. And of course they needed a room. There were not many rooms in the house. That was difficult for the host family too. But the guests did not understand. Perhaps they did not want to understand. They saw the angry faces of the host family, and they smiled. Just smiled and smiled. The husband of the guest family, Halil Effendi, drank raki every night too. His host, Izzet Effendi, was a religious man, and he never drank alcohol. He didn't even like the smell of it. But every evening, Halil Effendi came home with a small bottle of raki and some olives in a piece of paper. Then he sat and drank and ate and talked very happily until evening prayers. So dinner was always late, because of course Izzet Effendi could not begin to eat without Halil Effendi. Izzet Effendi did not like waiting for his dinner, and every evening he got hungrier and angrier. After 5 or 6 days of this, he spoke very openly to his guest. "Effendi, every evening you come home with a bottle of raki in your pocket. Is that right?" But his guest understood the question in a very different way. "My friend," he said, "you are very kind to me and my family. You welcome us into your house, and it is not easy for you. I know that, and I am very grateful to you. But now, what are you saying? Do you want to buy my raki for me? No, no, I cannot take more from you. I must buy my raki, not you. Please." Izzet Effendi looked at his guest's smiling face. But I didn't mean," he began. Then he stopped. What could he say? Halil Effendi was just a clerk in a government office in Anadolu, Kavağı. But he and his family had very little money. So they came to Istanbul to visit the moneylenders. Moneylenders are expensive. They give you money, but later they want more money back. Much more. Every day, Halil Effendi went to all the moneylenders and tried to find some cheaper money. But he couldn't. And so he and his family stayed in Izzat Effendi's home, and stayed, and stayed. One day, the host family had a meeting. They all went into a room, closed the door carefully, and began to talk. "I'm afraid to look in the storeroom," said the oldest lady of the house. "All our food for the winter, where is it now? Inside those hungry guests. They never stop eating, and they never say thank you. And those children, my God, they eat more than their parents." "Ah, my dear lady," said Zarafet, "don't look in the storeroom. There's no more olive oil, no rice or sugar, no beans. There's nothing. The dogs and cats in the street stop eating when they are full. But those children never stop. They come to me in the kitchen and say, 'Nanny, is the food ready yet? Can we eat now? We're so hungry.' Sometimes I get angry and shout, 'Get out of here! I don't like children in the kitchen. Out!' One day I chased them with a piece of burning wood from the fire, and their mother was angry with me. Oh, I cannot live with these people. I spend hours cooking my imam baildi, and those children come and put their dirty fingers into it, then put their fingers in their mouths, then back in the food again. And that man drinking raki all the evening. Then he stands in front of the open window and sings. The man in the next house is very ill, and our guest stands there singing. And the house, the kitchen, everything smells of raki all the time. Gah! Suddenly, Jezalet Hanum, the daughter of the house, looked at the door. "Shh, Nanny, talk quietly," she said. "There's a noise out there. Perhaps that woman is listening to us." But Zarafet did not want to talk quietly, and she began to shout. "She can listen. Why not? I'm not afraid. I tell her these things every day, but she doesn't want to hear. It's a nice life for our guests. Food, beds, drinking, singing. Wonderful!" "Be quiet, Nanny," said Jezalet Hanum. "I want to talk now." "Talk, my child, talk," said Zarafet. "You can talk for 40 days and 40 nights. But what can you do about our terrible guests?" "Listen to this," Jezalet Hanum said. On their second day here, the lady said to me, "Oh, I am going out. Please can I wear your chador and your shoes? My shoes hurt my feet, you see." Now, why does she want to wear my chador? Why can't she wear her chador? "That's easy," said Zarafat. "At one time, people gave the family money to help them, and she doesn't want those people to see her. So, she wears your chador, and nobody knows her when she goes out. Oh, yes, she's very clever." "She does it all the time," said Jazalat Hanum. "When she goes out, she always wears my chador and my shoes. I cry when I see my shoes now. They look so old and tired." "She takes your shoes and your chador," said Zarafat. "But what does she ask me for? Pants. She comes all the way from Kavakla with only one pair of underpants? Does she think I have hundreds of pairs of pants? She took a pair of my nice pants, and she wore them and wore them, and when she gave them back, ugh! They were so dirty. I just can't talk about it." The oldest lady of the house put her head in her hands. "What are we going to do?" she asked. "Are they ever going to leave?" "They came here because they wanted to get money from the money lenders," said Zarafat. "Where is that money now?" Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. "Who is it?" said the oldest lady of the house. "It's her, of course," said Zarafat. "Our guest." "Please open the door," said the person outside the room. Zarafat opened the door. There, with 2 big bags and her 2 children, stood their guest, dressed in her chador. Her face was very unhappy, and her eyes were red from crying. "I am here to say goodbye, ladies," she said. "I'm so sorry. You are very, very kind to us, and we give you so much trouble. Thank you for having us in your house. We are so grateful. Please, don't be angry with us." Her hosts looked at their guest's unhappy face and her red eyes. What could they say? "Ah, my dear," said the oldest lady of the house, "you don't give us any trouble. Of course not. You are always welcome. Our home is your home. for a few weeks or for 40 years. What does it matter? Please don't be unhappy. Is something wrong? Said Jazalet Hunnam. How can you leave us so suddenly? No, you must stay. Of course you must stay. Now, take off your chador and sit down. Don't go. And then Zarafat spoke. What do you mean? You can't go now, my dear? No. She began to cry a little. Oh, you are our family too. You can't go away and leave us. No. She put her hands on the children's heads. Ah, my dear children, come to the kitchen with me. Your nanny is going to cook you a wonderful dinner today. The Picture of the Year 2000 by Aisha Kilimji. Read by Rachel Bavidge. City life and village life are very different, and sometimes it is hard to change from one to the other. Perhaps it is easier to make the change when you are young. Guldiken and his mother are now living in the city, and Guldiken comes home from school to tell his mother all about his day. But his mother cannot forget her mountain village, and she finds it hard to understand the strange ways of city people. So today was the day to take gifts to your teacher, said the woman. Her voice was not happy, was not unhappy, was not angry, was not pleased. It showed nothing, but she felt angry. She felt angry in her heart. But with what? She did not know. Everybody brought something for the teacher, said the boy. Everybody. But you don't know anything about the city yet, said the woman in her colourless voice. Did you tell your teacher that? No, I didn't, said the boy. We came here to the city only a short time ago. Did you tell her that? We are still looking back to our village. Your city sky is new to us. Your rain is strange. We don't know your birds. Did you tell her all these things? No. Did you tell her this? My mother was afraid when she brought me to the school because her shoes were old and her clothes were different. She was afraid of the school, of the people, of the crowd, of all that noise, of all those women. They know so much. My mother could not speak because her voice was afraid to come out. Her heart is silent and afraid. In our village, my mother was queen of the mountains. She was strong. She understood everything. Here, in your place, she is nothing. She understands nothing. She is queen of nothing. Did you tell her all this? How can these city people know about your village, Mother? Said the boy. Did you tell her this? Look, teacher, my mother can shoot well. My mother can cut wood for the winter fires in 2 minutes. My father can work all day in the fields and he does not get tired. Did you tell her these things? No, I didn't. So, today was the day to take gifts to teachers. You can play a flute beautifully. It is more beautiful than a bird singing. And all the sheep in the village stop and listen to you. Didn't you tell her that? You can ride a horse. You can find water under the winter snow. Why didn't you tell her these things? What does a city teacher understand about these things? But you must tell her. In the city, you must tell people that we can do these things. Mum, it's okay. I had some money and I bought a gift for the teacher. Where did you find the money? It was my pocket money. I didn't spend it all, so I had a little money for a gift. What did you buy? For a city teacher, it must be something good. It is. It is something white, white as milk, quiet as the sky above our mountains. Come on, tell me. What is it? No, you tell me. Think about it. Look, here is my hand, and it is coming down on your head now. I bought her a nice piece of parchment. A what? A piece of parchment. What is that? Paper, Mum, paper. You write on it with a pen or a pencil. You write letters and send them far away to different places. It's different from the pages in a notebook. Oh, what a wonderful son you are! You are nearly a man, I can see. You save money, and you can go and buy a gift for your teacher. Oh, I'm so happy. What did the teacher say when she got the paper? Was she happy? She said, "Gouldiken, what do you want?" What does that mean? She didn't understand, Mum. She looked at me strangely, and then she said, "Sit down, Gouldiken. Don't walk around." So? My piece of parchment was my gift, but she didn't understand that. Gifts must be flowers or something heavy and beautiful. City teachers don't understand other gifts. So, you bought her a gift and she didn't understand it. Oh, these city people! They have big houses and long streets and gardens, but they don't understand a child's gift. It's okay, Mum. It's not okay. With your money, you bought a white piece of parchment for her, and she cannot understand this. What gifts can she understand? We can find many good gifts without money. A cup of fresh milk or a flower from the mountain. But city people can never understand gifts like that. But you are wrong. You did not tell her about the important things. You always find the best fruit on the tree. You always know the fastest horse. You are clever at these things. It's okay, Mum. The teacher said, Guldiken, it's a nice piece of parchment, and you can draw a picture on it. We drew pictures today, Mum. What pictures? There's a picture competition for all the schools. The teacher wanted us all to draw a picture of the year 2000. What is that? It's a long time from today. The picture of the time when you are dead and Dad is dead and I am a father and have children. So, tell me about the time when we are all dead and you are a big, important man in your world. The teacher wanted us to imagine the world and the mountains and the cities and our homes and everything. How can you know about those things? You can't see them now. She said, Imagine, Mum. And? Everybody in the class talked about different things. Computers, videos, cars. I don't know those things. Didn't you ask them? It's difficult to tell you, Mum. I know them, but it's so difficult. I cannot imagine the year 2000. I can only think of today. So I drew something beautiful on my white piece of parchment. What? I drew a sun, a very big, red, hot sun in the middle of the paper. My sun was bright, bright red. You couldn't look at it, Mum. It was so hot and red and bright. Good for you, Guldiken. And the teacher asked, What is it? And I told her. You wanted us to draw the year 2000, teacher. So I drew the sun in the year 2000. It was huge, Mum. A huge, red, hot, bright sun. That is the best thing to draw for the year 2000.
The Horse of Death by Said Faik. Read by Rupert Farley. Little Unal has measles and must stay in bed. But the sun is shining, and from his window he can see the toy shop across the road. There are so many toys in that shop, big, small, in all colours. But the most wonderful toy is a horse, a big black horse with a long tail and lights in its eyes. More than anything in the world, Unal wants to ride that horse. Little Unal was ill. He had the measles, and so he was in bed. But he was bored. What can I do? He thought. The doctor says I can't go out, but the sun is shining, and it's a beautiful day. That morning, when his mother left the house, she said to Unal's grandmother, "The sun is shining, but it's very cold. Be careful with Unal, mother. We don't want him to catch cold." From his window, Unal could look out at the street, and when his grandmother came into his room, Unal was at the window, wearing only his pyjamas. "What did your mother tell you?" said his grandmother. "And what did the doctor say? Do you want to catch cold and die, like your grandfather? Come now, go back to bed." "Grandma, what beautiful weather! And I'm not ill. I haven't got a fever." "No, thank God, you haven't got a fever. But it's easy to catch cold. And then those red spots on your face are going to go inside you." "Good," said Unal. "No, it's not good. Those red spots can kill you, so you must be careful. Come now, get back into bed." Unal got back into bed, and his grandmother went back to the kitchen. Unal's father was dead. He died before Unal was born. Now his grandfather was dead too, so Unal had nobody to call father. His mother worked as a cleaning woman in the government offices in the town. It was not a good job, and the family did not have much money. During that day, Unal was sometimes in bed and sometimes at the window. When his grandmother came into the room, Unal got back into bed. When she left, he ran back to the window. Across the street, there was a toy shop, and Unal watched it from his window. Today was New Year's Day, and there were bright lights in the toy shop window. What wonderful toys there were! Animals and cars, big and small, in all colours. But the most wonderful thing was a black horse. Oh, Unal wanted that horse so much. When you pulled the reins, there were lights in the horse's eyes. 3 of its feet were white, and it had a long brown mane. Unal stood at the window, thinking, imagining. "Now I'm riding that black horse," he said to himself. "I'm not ill. There's nothing wrong with me. Of course there isn't." When I'm riding the black horse, I don't get cold. I'm not ill, and there are no red spots on my face." Then he heard his grandmother at the door, and he ran back to bed. When his grandmother came in, she said, "That's a good boy, Unal. Stay in bed, and you can have something nice for dinner tonight. Now, I've still got a lot of work to do in the kitchen. Remember, don't get out of bed." She went out and closed the door. It was now dark, and all the lights of the toy shop window shone brightly across the street. Unal got up and dressed, then left his room quietly. He couldn't find his shoes, but he found some old shoes of his grandmother's and put those on. He ran out into the street and across to the toy shop. There were a lot of women in the shop with their children. Everybody bought toys for their children on New Year's Day. Unal didn't have any toys, but he didn't want them. He wanted that black horse. He wanted to ride it just one time. The shopkeeper was busy. Everybody was busy. Nobody looked at a small 8-year-old boy. Unal went in and walked quietly around the shop, looking at things. Then he hid behind some big boxes and waited. Some time later, all the lights went out, and the shopkeeper closed the doors and went away. The street lights outside shone into the shop. Unal went to the shop window and slowly opened the big glass door. Then he got into the window and climbed onto the back of the black horse. He pulled the reins, then looked at the horse's head. Yes, there were lights, bright, shining lights in the horse's eyes. Unal began to ride. "I can see snow on the ground all around me," he said to himself. "I can see clouds in the sky above and silvery lights from the moon. Everything is so bright, so cold. I feel I am swimming in the sea, but the water is as cold as ice." He and the horse rode on. Then Unal began to feel warm again. Far away there was a light, the colour of Unal's blonde hair. The horse rode on towards the yellow light. It was the sun. Now Unal began to burn. His hair, his hands, everything was on fire. The black horse, too, burned like fire. Then everything changed again. Unal felt strange, empty. First, he was in deep water. Then he was in the sky. He was not hot or cold. He did not feel anything. He and his horse began to go faster, faster and faster. When Unal's grandmother next went to his room, Unal wasn't there. His grandmother was very afraid. She looked for him in the house, in the street, and she asked everybody, "Where is Unal?" But nobody knew. Other families in the street came to help, and people ran in and out of the house all night. Then, when morning arrived, a man came to the women in front of Unal's house. "Look," he said, "look there, in the window of the toy shop." Everybody ran to look. They saw a small boy on the back of the black horse, with a smile on his face. But he was dead, cold and dead. They broke the shop window and tried to take Unal off the horse, but they could not move him. Unal belonged to the black horse now. He could not stop riding, riding, riding. They took him home, still on the horse. His grandmother looked and looked at the child's blue face. "Ah, Unal," she said, "what did the doctor tell you? Those red spots can kill people when they catch cold." Then a woman from the next house spoke. "When somebody wants to ride the black horse of death, nobody can stop him." They buried Unal and the black horse together in the cold ground. The Little Hunters at the Lake by Yalvach Ural. Read by Rupert Farley. Young boys often want to do the same things as their fathers. So Hikmet secretly borrows his father's big hunting gun, and he and his 3 friends go down to the lake. They are excited, laughing, making big plans to shoot ducks and cook them over a fire. They think they are hunters now, just like the men. But they are only boys and still have a lot to learn. The sky above the little lake was full of birds. Small birds, big birds, birds of all colours. We sat in the rain by Hikmet's garden wall and watched them. "Winter's coming," I said to my friends. "The birds are beginning to leave and fly away to warm countries." Then a hunting dog came by. It stopped and smelled all of us, then went away. "Is that Tekin's dog from the village?" asked Peker. "Yes, it is," said Hikmet. "But what's it doing here in the rain?" "Perhaps the hunters are coming out to the lake," I said. Then we saw them. There was Tekin, the driver, Nuri, Halil, and 2 more men. They wore hunting clothes and carried guns. We all wanted to go with them. Pekar spoke for all of us. "I'd like to have a gun and be a hunter too," he said. Then Hikmet got up and ran into his house. He came back with something in a bag under his arm. "What is it?" we said. But we already knew. Hikmet opened the bag, and we looked at the long, beautiful gun. "Hey, that's wonderful." "Of course it is." "How much is it?" 40,000. Wow. "Your father's going to be angry." "Yes, but I can put the gun back before he comes home." "Okay," we all said, and began to walk to the lake. First, Hikmet carried the gun, then me, then Pekar, and then Muammar. We were all hunters now. "We've got 5 bullets," Hikmet said, "so we can all shoot once. Then I can shoot a second time with the 5th bullet, because I brought the gun. And when we've got 5 dead birds, we can cook them and eat them," said Pekar. At the lake, we could see the hunters and hear the noise of their dogs. We too waited by the lake and watched. It rained and stopped, then rained again. But there were no birds on the lake or in the sky, not one. We waited, but then we began to think about Hikmet's angry father. "Shall we go home now and put the gun back?" said Muammar. Suddenly we saw 3 ducks. They flew down to the ground, not far from us. Hikmet stood up quietly and tried to shoot one of them. He didn't hit it, of course, and the ducks flew away. But the gun made a very loud noise, and now the sky was full of thousands of birds. During the day, the birds hide around the lake, and the hunters wait for the evening before they begin to shoot. But we learned all this later. Now the birds were afraid because of the noise. They all flew away, and so the hunters had nothing to shoot. The hunters began to chase us, shouting angrily. But we could run faster, and so we escaped. Soon we stopped and began to talk and laugh. "Where's our duck dinner then?" said Muammar. I laughed. "Wait until tomorrow," I said, "or the next day, when Hikmet can shoot." "Hunters don't always come home with lots of dead birds," said Hikmet. "Listen, the bird seller Ali shoots birds. And who does he sell them to?" "To the hunters," Pekar said. "Right," Hikmet said. "And why?" "Because people laugh at hunters when they come home with nothing. So the hunters go quietly to Ali, buy his dead birds, and then they can talk about all their exciting hunts." Suddenly, I saw some birds in the sky. "Be quiet," I told my friends. I took the gun, put a bullet in it, and waited. When the birds were right above me, I shot. 2 birds fell out of the sky and down to the ground. Shouting happily, we ran to the place. But just then, one of the birds flew back up from the ground, high into the sky. We were very surprised. We soon found the other bird. It was big, with a long neck. Hikmet looked at it. "It's dead," he said. "The second bird was only hurt, perhaps," said Muammar. We looked carefully at the dead bird, but we all felt a little afraid. Was it really dead? High in the sky above us, the second bird flew round and round in circles, giving long, sad cries. We began to carry our dead bird home, and after a time, the bird in the sky flew away. "When are we going to eat this bird?" asked Muammar. "Tomorrow," said Hikmet. "Who's going to cook it?" "We are." "But we don't know how." "Let's go to the bird seller, Ali, and ask him." We put the gun back in Hikmet's house and ran to Ali's shop. There were a lot of dead birds in the shop, but our bird was different. "Hello, boys," Ali said. "What can I do for you?" "We shot a bird," we said. "But what is it, and how do we cook it?" Ali smiled. "Well, you boys are better hunters than the men." We put the bag with our bird on Ali's table and opened it. Ali stopped smiling. He quickly put the bird back into the bag, and for a minute or two he said nothing. Then he said, "Look, children, you don't understand. You can't eat this bird. Take it back and bury it in the ground." We looked at him with our mouths open in surprise. Then Ali asked, "Was his mate with him there?" "There was another bird, but it flew away," said Hikmet. "Good," said Ali, and smiled. He began to say something, but stopped. "Did we really do something terrible?" asked Hikmet. "Listen," said Ali. "These birds are called cranes. You know, the famous crane in our songs? Hunters never shoot them because they are the symbols of love." We did not understand this, but we understood the words, "Take it back and bury it." It was nearly dark, but we went back to the lake and found the right place. Then we dug a hole and buried our crane there. I think we all cried a little because we felt so sad. After that day, we never talked about hunting. We had a long, cold winter that year. In the spring, we began to play outside again, but there was still some snow on the ground. "Let's go and look at our crane's grave," Hikmet said one day. We all wanted to do this, but Hikmet was the first to say the words. We walked quietly to the lake. Then Pekar said, "I asked Dad about symbols of love one day." "And what does it mean?" asked Muammar. "It means the cranes know how to love. Their love is the best and the strongest in the world." There was still snow on our crane's grave, but we could see 2 snowdrops too. Snowdrops are always the first flowers of spring. Hikmet began to move the snow away from the top of the grave, but suddenly he stopped. There was something under the snow. Then we saw it. It was our crane. It lay there on the ground, icy cold, on top of its grave. We felt very sad. "Who took it out?" said Pekar. "Perhaps it was wild dogs," answered Hikmet. "And then they couldn't eat it because it was frozen." "Oh, why didn't we dig a deeper hole?" Muammar cried. "We can do that now," said Hikmet. "God stopped the wild dogs from eating our crane, so now we must bury it deeper." Sadly, we began to dig. Soon the hole was open. But then we suddenly saw something and stopped very quickly. There was another crane in the hole. We looked at it and felt afraid. Nobody could speak. Hikmet took our crane out. Then he put it on the ground and began to cry. We all cried too, but we did not know why. Hikmet stood up. "I was afraid of this," he said, "and I didn't want it to happen." We did not understand. "Cranes, symbols of love, please forgive us," Hikmet said quietly. Then he looked at us. "Cranes are very loving birds," he said, "and the male and the female stay together all their lives. Cranes always live in warm places, but when a crane dies, its mate goes to a cold, snowy place. Then it dies in the snow, and nobody can eat it. People do not eat birds that die in this way, and hunters never shoot cranes because they know all these things." Our hearts were very sad. We buried the 2 birds together in the hole and put snowdrops all over their grave. And after that day, every time we heard the word love, we thought about the cranes. And we never forgot to go to the grave every spring. One spring morning, when I woke up, I saw a pair of cranes at my window. I ran to the window, but they flew away. Then I saw some snowdrops there. I took the flowers in my hand, held them to my face, and began to cry. Some minutes later, I heard someone at the door. Hikmet was there, his eyes red from crying. There were snowdrops in his hand too. "They forgive us," Hikmet said. "The cranes forgive us."